Good afternoon. I'm here in this garden outside, just like a guy named Guglielmo Marconi was 125 years ago. He was interested in the brand new technology of radio. Now, they called it Hertzian waves back then, but he had discovered through his research that there was a device called a coherer. Now, it was just a tube filled with iron filings. Now, I've made this out of a little vinyl tube, and his was bigger and more sophisticated looking, but it worked the same. And it was amazing in that when it was exposed to radio waves, now this is just a lighter, but when you click it, it gives off radio waves, and you see that the light came on. And when you tapped it, it made the filings go back and on, off, on, off. And he wondered if there was a way that you could harness that to send messages. And in his mother's garden, he built a telegraph machine that sent a message across her garden. For the first time ever, someone had communicated by radio. Well, it was amazing. And as soon as he got a patent and set about making it into a real moneymaker for himself, he discovered that this technology wasn't going to work. And it wasn't long till he and his team found a better way of making a radio. And it was quickly surpassed. And as a matter of fact, this technology today is not used anywhere. It wasn't really as useful for radio as he thought it would be, and there were many different ways of sending signals that he discovered and that have been discovered since. But it was this right here that led to the radio revolution that we know of today. It was this technology, quickly surpassed, that was crude in its own manner, but that broke it open and was able to lead the way to newer and greater technologies. It's pretty incredible to me when I think back on how something as simple as this could turn into the cell phones and televisions and radios that we enjoy today. All started here 125 years ago. I think of that sort of thing partly because just I enjoy old technology, but also because I have noticed in my own life when there have been times of stress for me, I tend to question my own calling. I remember when it happened that I realized that I had the potential to help people and that that would be a cool thing. But whenever the stressful times happen, I had to take a big exam, for example, or there was a time when my ability to make money was interrupted and there was stress put on me, just like now. I recognized within myself that there was, well, I might question myself. I might wonder what it was all about and what was I even doing. And it was in those times when I looked back at the beginning, when I started, at the call that I had, it was then that I found renewed hope in overcoming today's challenge, in overcoming whatever was going on at the time. Hard times tended to do that for me. And that as I pushed through, secure in the knowledge that my call was real, the skills that I had, even though my understanding was primitive, unformed, uninformed, that I recognized that the validity of that call was the stepping stone that began where I could be now. The challenges were more complex because my understanding and frankly my abilities were more complex as well. And as I found ways, creative, sometimes off the wall ways, of solving each problem, I became better able to do what my original call had asked me to do. Well, that's what happened here. Every time they recognized that there was a deficiency in this design and that it wasn't doing all that radio could promise, they found a new way. And it was that stress that made it possible. Well, maybe it's that way for you as well. That when the times of stress happen, when there are huge exams happening in the middle of a pandemic, happening in the middle of an economic turndown, when those pressures are on, I find it helps me, and maybe you'll find that too, to look back at the beginning and to recognize the hope that existed in that first call, primitive though it was, unformed and uninformed though it was, that as you became more sophisticated, as you became better able to flesh out the meaning of what that was when you started, that you're better able to do the job and to rise to the challenges. I imagine that if Marconi was alive today and could see cell phones and walkie-talkies and television in action, he would be beyond amazed and pleased that his insight began it all. And, well, maybe that's that way for you as well. That when you look back and you see how far you've come, you'll recognize how far you have yet to go, and that the sky's the limit.